last night. I finally got that done, and it's about snow country Japan. We had a few days off of the snow, so I thought it might be getting a bit warmer now. We do have shorter seasons here in Myoko, but it's back. It's back again. It seems like it's kicking off again. So just overnight, from about 3 p.m. yesterday, this is how much snow we've had. You can see here how soft it is here. This is our fresh stuff. Right down there, all the way to the top here. I guess that's about, I don't know, 50 to 60 centimeters, or at least 2 feet of snow. Yep, we had another snowstorm. I'll flip it so you can see the torii gate. If you joined my live a while back, I don't remember when it was, but there was a torii gate that I walked through at a temple. I'll flip it so you can see. And sorry it's shaky. YouTube is terrible for live. So that's the torii gate. Over there, just kind of disappeared. There's a house down there that has not been used. I'm not sure where the owner is. I've never seen anyone at that property. I don't think I can zoom. I can zoom. But that's been destroyed by the snow over the years. Zoom back out. This is our scene from having a few days of snow that we had a few days off of snow. It's been beautiful weather, very warm. Have you guys seen the gas stations in Japan? Where they have like, do you guys have this? I don't know if this is a Japan thing, I just don't know anymore. But the nozzle for the gas or petrol, it's up the top and it drops down when you pull up. I don't know if you guys got that. I don't know if that's like a normal thing anymore. Yeah, they've cleared these streets a couple of times already today. These are some of the snow walls. I literally, I'll flip it around. I literally came out to take out my trash. It's trash day for me. And I thought, I've actually been in Tokyo for a few days. I met up with some guys over there. I came back, I forgot, it was warm. I came back and I forgot how cold it is here. And we had this storm. And I was walking down this road now. I'm gonna have to, there's a dude up ahead just clearing his snow from last night. I'll go around the long way. Yeah, I didn't, coming back from Tokyo yesterday, the weather was so good. I could definitely have been wearing shorts. It was hot. And now I feel like I'm having a mini adjustment back into the cold. And if you've just joined, if you've just seen it, this is roughly how much snow we've had. I mean, it's crazy everywhere here. This is roughly how much snow we've had since 3 p.m. yesterday. Probably around here is where it's soft. And you can see the top up here. It's coming up to, it's probably like 60 centimeters of snow. So not 3 feet, but pretty close. And I'm always mentioning this, but it's not in my, I'm not up at the ski, this isn't the ski resort, this is a town. It's, yeah, like this part down here on the walkway, this was all cleared. We had really warm weather for, maybe like 4 or 5 days. And I was starting to think that the weather was shifting, because when it changes in Japan, when it gets warm here, it just gets warm and everything melts away. It's so pretty, that torii gate back there. It's just disappeared, it is gone. All right. Hey, what's up guys? Thank you for joining. I just put out this video yesterday for snow country Japan, we had this week of storms that came through, and we had like roughly 10 feet in about 3 or 4 days. And it looks like over the next few days we're getting another, it won't be so intense, but we are getting a lot of snow in the next few days. I never like to mention it too much, because you never know what's going to happen. But the guys, I'll flip it back around to the street view. The snow clearing guys crossed the street illegally. Keep an eye out where I'm going. The snow clearing has happened 3 times since midnight yesterday. This is just a scene of a regular winter day. This guy's just going for it over here. Getting out the icy snow. And on the left, these are the kind of snowballing machines that you see. Hey Jenny, when the snow melts, will your area get some kind of floods? No, it actually, the land all falls here. Japan is pretty steep. Where I live is quite steep, the mountains. And they've got all these channels that some of them are natural, like a river, and some of them are man-made. So the water is taken away pretty easily, and when it gets hot here, and it melts quickly. The track came out of the snowblower, not good. Oh, that's okay, it's good for you. Do you have a snow dump? Does anyone here who's watching, does anyone use the snow dump? Like the Japanese style? Oh, Kuchan, cool. You guys getting some good snow again? Kuchan is a good spot. Everyone's getting some great snow this year. Eddie, no snow? I'm gonna put this onto the little, on this one. Hold up, give me a second. It's gonna be shaky for a second. It's gonna be shaky all the time because YouTube's terrible for this. All right, I'm back this way. All right, let me just flip it a second. I'm reading your comments, trying to not die on the streets. What's up from Australia? Where are you at, Eddie? Toronto. I hear around the world people seem to be struggling in my comments saying they're not getting the best snow this year. Might all be here on top of this house. How crazy is that? No one lives in this house, by the way. It's not abandoned. It is owned by someone, but they don't live here. And it's starting to give way on the edges here. People have reported this place. So it is dangerous. おはようございます。雪はやばいですね、今日。怖いですね。怖いですね。Okay, just talking to the neighbors here. 2 big dumps, 45 centimeters. That's not bad, that's pretty good. I mean, it's something. This guy up here clearing the snow on the roof. There. Japanese style. Yeah, it's a beautiful morning. I thought we were going into the warm. There it goes back. I thought we were going back into the warmer season. I thought we might have been changing. It might have been a super short season, but it came back pretty quickly. Joey, biggest snowstorm years, Montreal, covered in snow. That's not bad. I was in Montreal a few years back, and I think I've traveled quite a bit, but I found Montreal to be the coldest place I've ever been to in my life. Montreal is cold. I'm gonna turn this around and talk about snow dumps for a second. Oh, this is my plumber here. Oh, ohayou gozaimasu. All right, I just saw a comment come through. One sec. I'm gonna walk this way. I don't want to get in the way of everyone. All right, I see Luke Dennis. Love the content, thank you so much. Are there many houses that don't get cleared at all? Are there many houses that don't get cleared at all? Yeah, there are a lot. And my neighbor's house next door here has a lot of snow, but it's a new house, and people have told me that it's been built in a way to hold it. It's not a problem at all. It's supposed to be holding it up. Why did they design it that way? I'm not sure. I would have thought it'd have been better to slope it all back into the yard. But we do get a lot of snow, and my neighbor's yard is already full to the top. And I'll show you my yard now. And check this out. My roof there I cleared this. It was completely, yeah, you couldn't, there was no snow left on my roof. It's actually a bad thing. I wanted to keep snow there for insulation, but I accidentally cleared it all, and the sun melted it away. So you want to actually keep snow on the roof. You do want to have some snow on the roof, at least like a foot of snow, 30 centimeters of snow. I see my neighbors, everyone's like, I love my ladder. I see my neighbor down here. Ohayou gozaimasu. 大変ですね、雪はね。Check out my yard. I keep trying to get it down. I keep trying to get this down. Okay, cool. I'm just reading some of the comments while I'm standing here. Where are we? My teeth glow whiter than snow. Thank you, Crest toothpaste. Oh, yeah, my ladder is... You should see my other ladder. I don't show it on purpose. Do we have a Walmart? We don't have a Walmart, but there is actually a Costco about 2 hours from here. I have been out there a couple of times. Otherwise, we have like so many supermarkets and things, big supermarkets. All the dollar stores, the 100 yen, 100 yen stores. 1 meter of snow, 3 days in Quebec City. That's a lot for the city. Color of the house, I just made a custom color. There isn't a specific color of the house. I just kind of said I want this and this and mixed them up. So there isn't a specific name. Oh, my snow dump. I keep forgetting. I want to show you my snow dump. Because I'm really curious. And sorry again, I'll put this down in a sec because I know this sucks. This shaking. My snow dump's here. All right. I'll flip this back to me. This is my snow just this morning. This has been cleared multiple times. Hold up. Shaking, sorry. One sec. Yeah. Okay, put it down because it is bad. Let's see if I can connect to some Wi-Fi as well. Hold up, try and connect to Wi-Fi. Cool. On the Wi-Fi here. Do you guys use, so there's a few people like Kuchan, you will definitely be using a snow dump, right? In Japanese, this is called snow dumper. Some people call them mama dumper. People are using this. This is the this is the largest size it comes in. Oh, there you go. I got two of these. This is the larger one. And this is the smaller size. You need these for the amount of snow that we have. And I'm surprised, like I lived in Seattle before. I used to drive up, I used to go skiing there a lot. And even up towards Mount Baker, which gets a lot of snow, down to hiking, and even in winter at Rainier, cross down to Oregon, and then up, of course, to Whistler, going snowboarding up there. This one is metal. Yeah, this is not aluminium. This is steel. This one. Yeah, but I never really saw anything like this. Especially, I think that I would have thought I'd see it in somewhere like Whistler, just because it's a resort and it's taken care of. And even when you prepare for, when you're preparing, what do they call it? The lifties, like getting ready where, the bit where you get on the chairlift. I would have thought this is perfect because this really can flatten out the snow and even it out really nicely. And it's super easy to use. I'll put the camera over here, hold up. And I'll shovel and show you how it looks. Because it is so easy and you don't use much effort. I'm just gonna put this here and show you how simple the snow dump is. Pretty easy. Pretty easy and straightforward. So just quickly, I mean, it doesn't take long. And I'm getting quicker at clearing my roof. Getting the technique down. So I cleared this one a few days back up here. And that took me like 20 minutes this time around, clearing the shed. Yeah, pretty cool. Let's go inside where it's warm. Oh, just check if we can see the mountain today before we head out inside. Yeah, the snow dump is like a game changer. It's like my best friend during the winter. Okay, I was just checking your comments that came through. From Luke, do you ever think you'll get a self-clearing roof? I know you love getting up there, expecting you won't. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not too worried about it right now. The roof it doesn't take too long now. I'm getting better at it. These guys back here are clearing. Doing this maintenance. It's before the real storm comes in. All right, come back to me. Where is it at? This little chat thing is so difficult to use. Okay. Looks a bit less than a few weeks ago. Yeah, the level has dropped a little bit. We had like 4 or 5 days of warm weather. When I say warm, like it was melting the snow. We had sunshine. And I was gonna set up here. This is just a nice little spot. Yeah, we had like this nice sunshine come through. I actually got back from Tokyo yesterday. I went to meet some guys. And I came back here, and I think it started snowing I did a live on Instagram actually yesterday, but it started snowing around 2-3 p.m. yesterday, and we had something like, you saw we've had 60 centimeters of snow in the since it's 10 a.m. It's been less than 24 hours. We had 60 centimeters of snow. It's supposed to be coming for a while. We get these forecasts. So the way our forecast works is we'll get a forecast of 20 centimeters of snow, or up to 1 foot of snow, and it's usually double. It's almost always double. It's very much under forecasted. It's like the complete opposite of Australia. The forecast is completely inaccurate for the opposite reasons. No one's trying to like claim a huge amount of snow. The Japanese guys are not trying to claim more snow than they need to claim. Do you clear your shed roof as well? I do. I cleared it a few days back, and yeah, it didn't take long. I'm getting quicker at that. The shed's pretty easy to do. So on your videos. I have been to Ecuador. I went to Ecuador a few years back. I traveled a lot of South America. I lived in Brazil for a while, and pretty hot actually. Yeah, I lived in Brazil for a while, so I traveled a lot of South America, and a few years ago in 2018 to 2019, for about a year, I started in the very south in Patagonia, and I traveled north over a year, and I got to the US. I stuck basically to the mountains, and I visited Ecuador along the way. Went to Amazon. I spent during this time. It's a whole other like interesting story, but during this time, I spent about 1 year, and less than $6,000 on my entire trip. Like it was I slept in bus shelters. it was like a very homeless style trip. And I hitchhiked all the way, so it was basically almost a free trip besides like cheap food that I would get. I love South America. Great place. Is it cold right now? I don't think it's cold. You can see my breath, but it's actually not that. It's actually not too cold. It's probably like minus 4 degrees Celsius right now. I don't think that's too bad. I think you'll be doing this until June. You know what? I think the snow will disappear pretty quickly around April. So the ski season ends around August. The ski season ends around March. And then once the weather changes, it gets hot here. And it goes pretty quickly, the snow. What do we got? Looks like Maine with all that snow. Is Maine like this? I don't remember Maine. I know Maine gets cold. It gets really cold and the snow stays. Surprisingly, there's rarely snow on the streets here. Are there many foreign tourists? Yeah, this town, are there many foreign tourists? There are a lot in Miyako, and it's only growing. And yeah, there are pros and cons to that. The cons being, the pros being economy and growth. The cons being this dilution of Japanese culture in some ways. It's still very strong, depending on the area. Like here, it's very Japanese here. So it just depends on the area. But I think something that I would like to teach people, as far as I know, or at least have other people, my neighbors, teach people, is Japanese behavior. And what is kind of, when you're coming into this area, it's not just skiing. You're coming into these small towns where people live and do a lot of other things besides skiing. So it's important to understand what they are. Do we salt the roads? We don't salt the roads there's almost no salt used, but it is used. So we do not salt the roads too much. We never use it personally on our streets, and this street never gets salted, but on the main street it can get salted. Thank you so much, Peter, for coffee. Yes, I'm gonna go get that today. I need it. I did this trip to Tokyo over the last few days, and Tokyo just like destroyed me with all of the people. I feel like, wow, I can't believe how many people are in Tokyo, both tourists and locals that are living there. Wow, it's like Tokyo's another world. I have to take like a deep breath before I get off the train in Shinjuku. There's no skipping of any exercise day here. Every day is exercise. Hey Jason, thank you so much. Appreciate the comment. Do my best on these videos. The Japanese use snowmobiles to get around instead of cars. They don't. It's really rare to see snowmobiles, but they do have them. And they do like, there's like meetups for racing events. I saw one recently. Yeah, the humble Japanese weatherman. They don't, I think they don't want it. Do we get mukade? That's a type of snake. I haven't seen any mukade here, but I've had them in the past. I've encountered them. I used to live in Ise in Mie Prefecture, and I've seen a lot there. And when I go out hiking, I'll see them in the mountains all over Japan. Mukade are everywhere, but we don't get a lot here. Am I worried about my roof? Not at all. One of the things that you can tell when it's time to clear your roof when the doors don't close anymore, but these places are pretty strong. So you have the shoji Japanese doors, and if they're not sliding properly, it's because there's too much weight on the roof, and that's usually a good sign that you need to clear the roof. Oh, this is cool. I got a question here. Where's the best spot for a good old-fashioned snowball fight? Did you know, just a few days back, and I didn't go, but did you know the biggest snowball fight in the world, officially, is in Japan, in Niigata? It's a couple of hours from here, towards Yuzawa, which is another ski area, and they host the official biggest snowball fight in the world. And it just happened, the 36th edition of the biggest snowball fight in the world. 130 teams compete against each other with snowball fights. I didn't make it. I feel like, I don't know what I was doing, but I didn't go there. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate it. Immense. Hold on, I'm gonna go inside. We got a few people in here. Let's go inside, and I'll get to your comments. Make sure the door is closed. All right, I have to mess in here. Should be okay. All right, give me 1 sec. I'll set up because it is a bit difficult to read this outside. All right, let's try some of these comments. I'm gonna grab my laptop actually, so I can read the comments. Okay, pulling this up. So today's probably going to be a snowboard day. I think I have no choice but to go snowboarding. There it is. I'm just about to open my live. The chat on the phone is really difficult to read. Okay, so I've got this chat open down here. Yeah. Oh, this is so much easier. Okay. Do you know if your neighbor, so this is that's actually a very funny question. Do you know if your neighbor wants to sell his empty house? The neighbor is not there. The neighbor passed away 20 years ago, and it's very difficult in Japan. So with like these abandoned houses, you can't just buy an abandoned house. There's a whole story and a whole lot of hurdles that you need to go through to be able to secure these abandoned houses. And if no one is there to sign the documentation across to say this is now your property, the title and the deed, it can be impossible. Like these houses can be standing there forever. There's no like legal way in Japan that's straightforward to buy a house that's abandoned where someone is not alive to sign it off. So that's the answer to that question. Does the person want to sell it? The person's dead, and it's impossible right now, unless you was to go through a long... I was speaking to one of my other neighbors, like to put it into context, a Japanese guy who wanted to buy the property next to his house, and he mentioned to me that he's been using a lawyer for the last 3 to 4 years to try to acquire that property because it would be helpful for him to have that land and that house for expanding his business. But after 3 or 4 years, there's a Japanese person with native Japanese who lives here, who knows how things works better than I do currently, and spent 3 to 4 years researching this with a lawyer, he ended up giving up in the end. So it's a long road to it's a long use of time, and you've really got to want it. The solid -20 to -25 in Western Canada this month. -20 to -25. I was living in Seattle, and I was always keen to go up. I was going to Whistler a lot, and I was always keen to go over to like Edmonton area. But every time I check the weather for Edmonton, it's always minus something ridiculous. And I'm always like, I knew people who were like from the Philippines who moved there for like who immigrated there, and I have no idea how people survive in that temperature all the time. But I'm guessing it could be a drier cold, so it's easier to live in, maybe. What is it? Is it cold? Is the cold better there? Tacoma. I love Tacoma. There's some nice cafes down there too. Donovan Wright, living the dream. Yes, I'm loving this place. I'm loving the dream right now. This is good. I have no choice but to go snowboarding. Yeah, I have to go snowboarding today. We've had a lot of snow. We've had like 60 centimeters. We have to go snowboarding. After getting coffee. Thanks, Peter. After the coffee. I've heard homes in Japan are quite cold. So Jason says, Jason Lane, I've heard homes in Japan are quite cold. I'm sure this varies. When you were looking around for a house, was this a concern, and did you have to do much to make the house warm? So are houses in Japan cold? If you check out the video that I just put out yesterday, like 12 hours ago, and I did another walkthrough of Miyako, the answer is more or less yes. For any house that's more than 25 years old, which is the majority here in this area for now, if it's 25 years old or older than 25 years, it will be a cold house with zero insulation. And the main reason being because these houses, this area, was built up in a way that they're not just tackling the cold weather, they're tackling the hot weather in summer too. So we get close to 100% humidity in the warmer months, and then we get this crazy snow and cold during the colder months. So people will usually, they don't insulate so the air can flow more. You might have seen in my renovation videos that under the floor there was no insulation, and the houses have been built in a way that the air can flow through, which means more cold air can also come through. And the same with the ceiling and the roof space. There is no insulation in these older houses, to get that airflow happening. Another feature that you can see straight away directly with my ceiling behind here, if I just pull this up, so I'm this way looking up, is this overlapping wood, and the space behind that is empty, behind this wood here. So this overlaps with gaps in between. And the reason being, again, for that airflow to be able to flow through the house. These houses were built in this way to make it better for summer and winter. That was the attempt. And what people usually do, so how do people deal with that during the winter? They'll close off the space. I've opened up all my spaces now, but they have these shoji doors. Mine is still in the shed. I have mine, but I'm happy that I don't have to use it anymore. It's warm enough in here. But they'll close off the rooms with the shoji sliding doors and live in one room during the winter and just heat that room with a kerosene heater. Yeah, so do they get cold? They're built to be cold. And it's changing now with how technology's changed, the building technology, I should say, not just like, not electrical technology, but building methodology and technologies has changed a lot, which means there's been a lot of updates in Japan to how things are done differently. There's still a long way to go. There's still a lot of things that could be learned from other countries and other technologies and methodologies. But yeah, most of the time, I think there's still opportunity in Japan for improving insulation, even today. Did it take a lot for me? So I insulated the underneath my house. I insulated above my house. I didn't do the walls, but I did the windows. I added an inner window that's double glazed. So I have a double glazed window and I have another single glazed. So I have more insulation and other things that aren't coming to mind. The front door, the door behind me here, I got that sliding door to keep out the air. This one here. So that's also a way that I'm insulating the house. And I need to do the front door. I'm saving money now to to buy a new front door that's insulated, because that's a problem. That's a heat loss. Cool. We quiz anime. Since you moved to Japan, has there ever been small or moderate earthquakes? Is there any safety procedures? In this time last year, in January, was it last year? I think it was January last year. We had a 7.3 magnitude earthquake here. I had it in this house. It was in Noto area in Toyama Prefecture, I think it was, which is just on the other side of the mountains, the other side of Miyoko Mountain, of Hakuba, the Toyama area. It was 7.3. It's pretty big, and the house. So I was here at the time. I was right here, and I could feel the floor was actually like, it was waving. It wasn't like shaking. It wasn't like this. It was actually doing this. So you could feel, because that's what's happening with an earthquake. The earth is like a wave moving along. So we did have a big one. The safety procedures is to stay under something. So if I'm in my house, the best idea for now that people would say is to stand in a door frame where it's structurally built to hold things up. So stay in a door frame. They do teach in Japan to go under a desk, but that might be changing. People are now saying to stay in a door frame. It's a bit difficult if you're in a high school, in a school, and there's 40 students and there's one door frame. So maybe a desk is the best option. It's the next best option, maybe. They have these simulators in Japan for earthquake simulators, and you can go and test it out and get all of the training you need. When I moved to Japan the very first time and I did a language school, I was in Kyoto in Ritsumeikan University. They actually had quite extensive training on earthquake procedures, and not just earthquakes, other things as well. But part of this onboarding into coming to Japan was understanding what to do in an earthquake, and we were forced to learn about it, which is great. We did have this training. We had to use the simulator to see what it feels like, and we were told to buy like a safety package, flashlights, safety vests, something like a warm emergency blanket, food supplies. So I have that in my house under the stairs. I have like a safety pack, and I have to refresh that every year for like canned food, for example, in case something goes wrong. I got about 2 weeks worth of food that are my supplies. But the government really provides that information. If you go to a local city hall, town hall, all of that information is available in Japanese and in English, and probably Chinese as well. They're expanding on the languages, Portuguese, Tagalog for the Filipinos. That earthquake for me, so going back to that earthquake, 7.3 magnitude, it wasn't normal, but that lasted about 5 minutes. The house was shaking for about 4.5 minutes. The house shook. So I had about 1.5 minutes solid of earthquake time. Then it stopped for a second. So that was the first part. That was the first tremor. And after that, we had more tremors ongoing after that. A total of up to 5 minutes of tremors and earthquakes. I went outside and my neighbors were out there. Because you're not supposed to go outside. You're supposed to stay where you are. But after a few minutes and feeling like safe in my space, I decided to leave the house thinking it might be safer, avoiding power lines above your head. But the neighbors were already standing outside looking up at Mount Miyoko because it's a volcano, seeing if it was an eruption, because it wasn't a normal earthquake. It did last a long time. And people were wondering, is Miyoko erupting? So that's another, it's not just earthquakes, it's also volcanoes. Okay, I'm looking at your comments here. So Chris asks, oh wait, I'm gonna go up a bit higher. There's quite a few comments that come through. Earthquakes. Adam says a lot of them, no one wants to inherit the houses, so the government is still looking and it can't be sold. Yeah. A lot of people don't want the houses, and even if people don't want a house, Adam's saying that people don't want to inherit the houses. And to some extent it's true, and to some extent they have inherited the houses, but for example, one of the houses close by to here, the land is owned by the brother and the sister. I'm making this story really simplified, but it's true. The sister owns the property, the physical property, and the brother owns the land, and they can't come to an agreement what they want to do with it. The brother wants to sell, and the sister wants to keep it and keep the house. Because they can't come to agreement, it's a family feud. They just leave it as it is, and it will stay like that for a very long time until one of them changes their mind. And there's millions of reasons that you can get caught up in with buying these abandoned properties, which is why I wouldn't really promote it. It's not very straightforward. I would love to go and live in Japan for a while. So I have a comment here. I'd love to go and live in Japan for a while. Have you heard of any jobs for foreigners that don't know Japanese but would love to learn it? Maybe not as an English teacher. I think I just got back from Tokyo, and I'm so surprised how much. If I went to Tokyo 15 years ago, I never saw this amount of tourism. Firstly, so tourism has grown a lot. It went from something like 8 million visitors in around the early 2000s, about 7 million visitors in around 2005. And last year it's coming up to 40 million. It's 4 times as much. And especially Tokyo, when you fly into Tokyo, that's where you start. You either fly into Tokyo or you fly into Osaka. Usually, there are other options, but it's usually Tokyo or Osaka. And everyone wants to visit Tokyo because of the cool things to do there. So when I go there, I do feel that influx of foreign impacts, like the international. It's very international there. And I think most of the convenience stores I went to in those couple of days I was away, I was in Tokyo the last few days, most of the people that sold me something from the convenience stores were not Japanese. They speak Japanese, actually, and they still have Japanese behaviors. They're actually very, very, they've learned the behavior style as well, which is pretty cool. But what I'm leading to is Japan is changing, beyond English teaching, there are other things that you can do in Japan. Someone was telling me recently that they're doing removalist. They're doing a more basic style physical job, and trades. Working the other stuff would be this more simple working in factories, the jobs that you don't necessarily need qualifications for. But if you wanted to come to Japan and live a life where you could be in a better job and be geared for a better position, you'd have to come with some kind of university degree and use that as a stepping stone into a better position, something that can keep moving forward. Not to say that a factory job isn't a good position, you can still move up from there, but you really need qualifications for, and part of it is the visa requirement. Okay, Giselle asks me, what meals do I tend to make? Japanese style or foods from home? I like doing all types of foods, and you can get it all in Japan. So my weekly food will be Japanese style food. Lately I'm making nabe, like hot pot. You can buy these great packets of soup. You just put soup in there, cut anything fresh, anything that you like, daikon, radish, carrots, potato, whatever it is that you want, whatever you like, cabbage, throw it in a hot pot, mushrooms, like there's so many types of mushrooms in Japan, throw them all in there, add some meat if you want, add some tofu, spice it up, and that's it. Like it's really just heating up food. So nabe is good during the winter. And because I kind of grew up in Australia too, Australia's food is very much influenced by Southeast Asia. So we make Thai food. I make Thai curry a lot, like green Thai curry, red Thai curry. Indian food is really popular in Australia. Anything Southeast Asia. Vietnamese food is really good. So I'll try to like make this at home. And you can get most of the ingredients in Japan. I have... So Chris B8 asks me, would consider buying another house to set up as an Airbnb or Airbnb your house in the off season? I haven't got to the point where I'm not looking to Airbnb right now. So there are extra rules in Japan for Airbnb depending on the area. For this area, it's pretty lenient actually and flexible because it is a tourist area. But for example, in Tokyo, I think the rule is still in play that you can only Airbnb your property in Tokyo over the weekend. So it can only be Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night, I think. And if you're in Tokyo, like correct me here if this has changed. And some areas have a length of stay limit, whether it's like a short stay or a long stay. I think Hawaii is also the same. I was living in Hawaii for a while, and during the time I was in Hawaii, they changed that rule for Airbnb that the property should be only used from 30 days plus. It couldn't be any shorter, so the hotels can still compete and make money. Japan has a whole lot of rules like this, and I saw the effects. I went to Iceland a number of years back, and I saw the effects there, and I was told by the locals there that in Iceland, during the whole Airbnb ramping up, even the local people in Iceland started to just rent properties, make a rental contract, and then start Airbnb-ing them. And it drove the prices in Iceland really high. And I think there's been a lot of these cases where people have taken advantage of the system in this way around the world, where Japan is still a little bit behind and moving towards it. They can learn from stuff that has worked and hasn't worked. So Airbnb is still growing in Japan. I wouldn't be looking necessarily to use Airbnb. Yeah, and I don't need an income from the house. Not to say I don't like the money, but I'm not looking to Airbnb right now. Maybe in the future, but not right now. We've got Tacoma here. We've got Westchester here. What is up? 5-hour drive south of Edmonton. Minus 40 or 45 or minus 50 degrees. It's crazy. Cameron asks here, I'm looking at the comments down on my screen here. Cameron's asking, Cameron B, in the US military, dream is to one day live and serve in Japan. Any advice seeking to travel there? And possibly live part of their life there. So if you're coming military, you'll be based in one of the few areas that you can live in. I think they're set up pretty internationally. Like Okinawa is the first one that comes to mind, but there's also a bunch of other. Hyogo Prefecture has a base there. Yokohama has a base there. So I think definitely just go with it. I think it'll be easier than you expect. It'll all be very well set up for that transition, and I think you should just go for it. Location doesn't matter. When I first moved to Japan, I chose to live in Kyoto, and I love Kyoto. I had a great time living there. I'm not sure, I even thought about it recently, would I live in Kyoto again? I don't know if that time has just passed now for me. Maybe in a few years. But after living in Kyoto, I lived in Mie Prefecture, and I went on JET program as an English teacher. I didn't choose Mie Prefecture, Mie chose me. I chose like I had three preferences, and Mie wasn't one of them. I actually didn't really know where Mie was. I heard of Ise Jingu at the time, but I didn't really know where it was back then when I moved there. But being open-minded and just going to anywhere, like, I had no choice. My hair is nuts. I had no choice but to move to Mie if I wanted that experience. And I'm so glad that I did. It really opened my world, and I started to really understand, and this was 2015, I really started to understand it doesn't matter where you go in Japan, you're going to have a community there, you're going to have a culture there, there'll be a dialect there. There's a whole lot of stuff to explore everywhere in Japan. So I would just say go for it and just give it a try. What I would say to anyone shifting to Japan, like in that topic, is just be prepared to really stand back and see what everyone else is doing as you operate your behaviors, and not even like a language thing, but behavioral. What are people doing, and how can I kind of be part of that? I think is really important. I'm just going back up to the top. Let's jump down. Jason, love your content. Thank you. Envious and terrified at the sheer amount of snow you receive and to contest with. Seems cozy, but that comes with so much upkeep. Keep the vids coming. Thank you, Jason. Yeah, there's a lot of work living here in this part of Japan, and even the snow. Snow is one aspect, so it requires a lot of maintenance. I probably have to check my roof. I will check my roof again this year, and see if I need to paint it, touch it up. What's being crushed? I think my trees out the front have been crushed this year, so I'll have to like tend to those things. Most of the house should be solid, but there will be maintenance involved. Besides the snow country Japan, there's also like the amount of dust that Japan gets. It's not like anywhere else I've lived anywhere in the world. The dust and the mold, because we go from it being here minus, I think last night was -7. So it's cold, it's minus something. And in summer, it's 40 degrees Celsius. Like it can be more than 100 Fahrenheit. Humidity, 100% humidity. And the mold is bad. The houses are not designed, the older houses are not designed with that kind of airflow to change the air in the house. And there are a lot of dead spots with airflow. So it's not just the snow that you need to worry about. It's also like the other parts of even the summertime, in springtime, the amount of dust that we get from pollens. There's a lot of upkeep. So I really have come to realize it's part of, this would definitely have an impact on why, or an influence, why Japanese society is so clean, because they always have to keep on top of it, because it would just go wild if they didn't. Simon Mack lived in Niigata for 12 years. Sick. Why did you leave? Was it the snow? John, I think someone's answering some of these questions too. Is marijuana illegal in Japan? Everything's illegal in Japan. Drugs are illegal. You have to get, you can bring in, like, for example, this isn't advice for people. This is like, please check this. But if you have prescription drugs that you use in your country and you come to Japan, you have to make sure you're allowed to bring them here. Certain drugs are not allowed. Some of them you're allowed to bring for 30 days or a month. And after that, you have to get a special, if your prescription is longer, if you're staying for 3 months, you have to get you have to go through the embassy to get permission to bring that. But check all of that information. This is not like advice. This is like just a topic of conversation. Anthony is good evening from Long Island, all the way over there. Must be cold there as well. I was in Long Island. A good friend of mine lives in Long Island, and I was there for 2021, I think it was, New Year's, Christmas and New Year's with my friend, and that way. And it was cold. It was actually really cold over there. Jason is wondering, where am I from? My accent is, I was born in Australia, raised between Sydney and London. And then I left when I was I grew up between the two. And I travel back and forth every year for 3 months at a time or something. And then I've lived in Fiji, Brazil, the US. And in the US, I worked in an Irish company, so I have some Irish twang in there as well. And I think the influence of, I used to speak Portuguese very fluently. That was my second language. And my third language is Japanese. So some of my pronunciation has been infected by that. It's been, jazzed up with some different like language. Also, working as an English teacher, I started to slow down the way I speak and try to speak more, I try to have like more clarity in how I say things. As an English teacher, that was important, and I took that with me when I left. Okay, some more questions here. Is your front door hollow or solid? It is hollow, and I'd love to just inject something into that because it is freezing. And when you look on the inside, sometimes it's frosted over. So I do need a better front door. The front doors in Japan are pretty cool. I'll try to get something that's similar. They're not cheap. Donut Dude says, is it true they're just getting English foreigners with good English to teach English in Japan? Some schools, this is a question about like English teaching in Japan, and is there a preference for good English and English foreigners? I'm gonna think you're talking about like nationality. So I'd say that some schools have preference for Americans, some schools have preference for, and I'm saying the accent, American accent. Some schools have preference for an English accent, and some schools have preference for Australian accent. I'd say, as a Japanese speaker learning English, the easiest way to learn would be through watching media. And by media, I'm saying like movies or listening to music, and the majority of that will come out of the US. So it makes sense that goes hand in hand for Japanese English learners, for them to use an American accent because of exposure. But when it comes to pronunciation, it's actually, Japanese pronunciation is closer to British English. So for example, car would be car in, like my car is my car in Japanese. So the pronunciation can be quite similar. What's another one? If you got him, and like throw him out there if you got him. Damn, nothing's coming to mind. But yeah, the pronunciation, because it's a phonetic language too, British is slightly more phonetic than American English. My grandmother's nephew was a mayor of Aomori in 2008. Family is still somehow involved in the government there. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, there's a lot of deep history back in the 1950s and 60s as well, when people started coming into Japan and doing good things at the time, trying to like implement change for the economy, and economy in Japan blew up back then. So yeah, there was a lot of positive changes from internationals who came in to try to help grow the economy, which was the goal back then after the war. Hey, Tony's here. What's up? You made it back home. Yeah, Yama Trips is here. I couldn't believe it. I was staying I went to visit Tony during that trip to Tokyo. And when I got back, Tony, my car was covered. I'd parked at the station, and I had like 40 centimeters last night on top of my car of snow. I had to clear it off. It was freezing after Tokyo. Tokyo is warm. Tell it. Hold on, I'm just gonna shut some doors. Let's grab some water. Tell everyone how natto is. Natto is great. Natto, I have natto over here. It's like good protein. Eat natto. Natto is good. Get some natto, get some hot rice, put natto on top, and just crack an egg. Just an uncooked egg on the top. Super protein. I have this guy, my cousin Shinji did 6 months in jail for having marijuana plant in the 90s. That's, yeah, there you go. That's verified. You cannot have marijuana here. How long can you stay as an American in Japan if traveling, living? If you're traveling to Japan on a tourist visa, you can stay for 90 days in Japan for up to 6 months for 180 days of 1 year. It's the same for Canadians, Australians, British. And you cannot work during that time, of course. That's just a tourist visa. Michael, thank you so much for... Michael, you shouted me like 2 coffees here. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. I have coffee time today. Thank you for sharing content. I appreciate the respect you show your neighbors. Yeah, I love my neighbors. It's funny, you know, I went over to talk to one of my... So you might have seen this video I made with one of my neighbors recently, Okada-san, Okada. He's an older guy. He's lived here his whole life. He's about 70 years old. And he saw me on the roof because their office is here. He's an architect and builder. And he's like, Matt, I saw you shoveling snow. And he's like, you're terrible at shoveling snow. He's like, you use too much force and too much power. You're too Western. Let me show you like the Zen Japanese way, how we do it. And he just showed me how to use chikara, the power from the core. So power from here and holding onto the snow dump, shoveling snow, and just pushing into it, and then a little extra force, and then taking that and then using power to release it. So yeah, they often teach me stuff, and it's so cool, like, learning chikara from my neighbor who's been using this his whole life. And I know there's other parts to it. I know there's physics. I know that there's other things about it, but the ideology within Japanese culture is just beautiful. Like, this is just a nice thing, and it feels so authentic. It's not like I'm going to a school to learn this. It's my neighbor coming to help me and teach me to make my life better. And yeah, use less energy. John was born in Yokohama. Very cool. I didn't get to my story. So Okada came and told me this. And when I went up there to say, hey, thanks, I went up there and say, hey, I made the video, check it out. Let me know what you think about it. And he loved it. And then the woman that works there, she's in her 70s too. I think she's 76, and she's the owner of this building company. And she's like, Matt, this morning I saw you talking to like an obasan. There's a woman, there's like a lot of people that walk past here. And this woman's like, must be like 85 years old. And she was telling me like, oh, the snow's been bad this year. Yeah, I haven't cleared the roof yet. My husband usually clears it, who's also pretty old. And she's like, Matt, you're looking like an old man now. Like, you're just outside talking to old women about the snow condition in the countryside. She's like, yeah, you've really aged in the last like couple of years you've been here. And I'm like, yeah, the snow is pretty bad. It's dangerous up there. 危ないですね。雪が、今日は雪はやばいですね。So, where is your girlfriend? She never seems to be around anymore. Patrick asks, where's my girlfriend? My girlfriend doesn't like to be in the videos. She's private. She chooses to, she prefers not to be in them. And that's why you don't see her too much. She's looking for privacy. That's the main reason. But she likes to feature in them now and then when I make her. But she's definitely more about the privacy. She doesn't want to be in the spotlight. And she goes to work. This is my main work, and I work from home. And she goes off to work, so she's not around. I think it's been a big transition for me, even, like on that topic, the privacy and sharing all of this stuff. I started on Instagram, and I wanted to share information about Japan initially, about traveling in Japan, because I've been to all of the prefectures and traveled a lot. And my initial videos were about, my initial videos style was to show beautiful places and have beautiful music in the background playing. But one day I turned the camera around and started talking to it, and people liked it. I just have like a lot of stories, and people seem to enjoy that way. So that's how I kind of moved into talking to the camera. And I think it also helped. I've worked for Microsoft and Facebook in the past, and I did a lot of presentations while I was there, not in the tech world, but in construction management and property development. They're building data centers. So I kind of got used to doing this, like talking on a call to a lot of people and trying to teach something. My whole point is to like add something to your life, add value in some way, to give like valuable information. So I kind of got used to it, and if I went back a few years, I wouldn't have been able to hold this conversation to a camera like this. Never. That's not really my personality, but yeah. So this is kind of my girlfriend's side. Scott and Kiku from Kinasa Nagano. Oh, very cool. It's restoring a 200-year-old kominka. Hopefully starting an Airbnb. Wow, a 200-year-old kominka. I respect that. You guys are going to be working hard. I'll have to come and visit and check it out at some point. Kominka will be fun. Jason from Houston in Texas can relate with the humidity, but the accumulation of snow is different. Yeah, the humidity and the snow, it's just crazy to have all of the seasons here. So you're always having to change. And that's a cool thing about Japan in general. When you come here, you're able to, it doesn't matter when you come here. You know, people will say there are these videos out there, and Instagram does it, YouTube does it. When is the best time to visit Japan? And really, there's no best time. Like any time you arrive in Japan, from January to December, it doesn't matter when you come here. You'll find a festival, you'll find an event, you'll find the season is being celebrated somehow, somewhere. It's just whenever you can get here. But you're not gonna miss out, honestly. Cherry blossoms are cool. Right now is the plum blossoms. It's happening around now. The plum blossoms happens, then the cherry blossoms happens, and then spring kind of kicks in. Summer is cool because you go hiking to the highest parts of Japan and the high mountains. So there's always something for exploring in Japan. There's no best time. Humidity is fun. Like the temperature is great. It makes you feel alive. Worship has commented and said, so the name is Worship, they had to use a process to apply for medications to be able to bring into Japan. So that's the normal thing. Top 3, so Memo Contreras asks the top 3 recommendations for good multi-day trekking. The top 3 recommendations, I don't have top 3. I'll give you 3 because Japan is like 70+% mountains. And for trekking in Japan, you can go anywhere you want. Most prefectures have it. The highest area, the place that gets the most tourism is Nagano for hiking. Well, Mount Fuji, then Nagano. Nagano has the highest mountains through the Northern Alps. But if you wanted to go somewhere a little bit different, you go to the Southern Alps. And it depends where you are. If you're coming in from Tokyo, you could go to Yatsuga Dake, is the name of a mountain range. It's kind of it's between Tokyo area and Nagano area. It's part of Nagano, but it's in between the prefectures. That's a good spot if you want to be closer to Tokyo. That's for multi-day trekking. You can you can either use camping with a tent or you can use mountain hut. The other spots you could visit would be Niigata, further north of, I mean, you can come to Myoko, has good trekking. Madarao, there's actually a, what's the name of that? Give me a sec, I'll just Google the name of this trek. Multi-day. They've just brought this out in the last few years and they're pushing it. Madarao. The Shinetsu Trail. So the Shinetsu Trail is a multi-day trail that covers a lot of mountains, but it also goes through towns and villages too, so you can stop off and get supplies. So the Shinetsu Trail is a nice, they say 5-day trail. You could probably do it in 3 days if you push it, or take it slower if you want. The Wakayama area is also popular for the Kumano Kodo. So Wakayama, Mie Prefecture is Kumano Kodo. Nara Prefecture, it's all combined into one. That's more of like a pilgrimage trail. So you could also check that out as well. But really anywhere you go, you can do trekking. It depends on the month you come here. If you're coming here when it's still kind of colder in June, July, you wouldn't be able to go to the Northern Alps, for example, because snow will still be there. But you could go south into Kumano Kodo and pair that up with the Yoshino area. And in Yoshino, they boast the most cherry blossoms in one spot in Japan. So if you were there around April, May, you could see the most cherry blossoms in Japan and hike the Kumano Kodo. Even, I could just keep going all day with the trekking, but even the other place that's kind of underexplored is the Shikoku area. And Shikoku has great hiking. There's so many more places. Every prefecture has it. Even Tokyo has like some decent hiking around. I have the Udatsu family adventures. When I was little, I loved the snow. Now I just like watching you play in the snow. Yeah, there's a difference. It's nice to watch the snow as well. I'll send my kids to help with shoveling when we move over there. I love that. Yeah, I'm thinking about building so my snow pile in the backyard, if you were on the video at the very beginning when I started this, an hour ago now, you might have seen that massive pile of snow in my yard. I'm thinking about turning that into an igloo. Just digging a hole out there. It's quite compact now. So I have a comment being, I don't know how to say your name. Igon. Being from a country where gentrification has been an issue, I look up to how you try your best to be part of the community. Have you felt welcome or have you felt some pushback? I felt very welcomed being part of this community. I've never had any issues otherwise. I've never had any negativity from my neighbors being here in this part of, in here. I'm sure it exists because we're all humans, and I'm sure people, I don't want to make it all sound like, oh, I'm the best guy in the world, this is the best. Yeah, the Kamakura, I just said the message there. I'll get the Kamakura going. Yeah, I don't want to make it sound like everything goes smoothly because we are humans and we all have different opinions on everything. It's funny because I am in a tourist town, but it's also a place where people buy property to escape and have a quieter experience in Japan. That can be for Japanese or for international buyers. So there would definitely be people here that would be against me sharing so much about Myoko. It has caused hype around the area, and a lot of people want to buy a Myoko, not necessarily because it's the best place in Japan, it's a great place in Japan, but because people who are interested in buying property can feel more familiar with Myoko because I share it. Because when people stand back and say, hey, I want to buy property in Japan too, where could that be? People can easily look at my videos and have a town tour. They can see what it's like here from my perspective. Someone that's maybe a bit like them, a Westerner that's moved over here, and there's like a comfort level there. So some people appreciate it, and some people who are looking for something different wouldn't like it so much. But I do try to be, I do try to be positive and share the most positive side of this. And what I mean by that is, I definitely don't promote everyone to come and buy a house in Miyako. I think it requires a person who's wants to be part of a community, who wants to learn the language. And language aside, it's not just the language. Number one is understanding the culture to the best you can. Some of those things this year that I've seen people struggling with, and I understand, is, for example, drinking alcohol in a hot spring. It's not the thing that you do in Japan. There are places you can do it in Japan, actually, but it's not normal to go to a hot spring where you're going to clean yourself is the number one thing that you do, and enjoy the moment. And to pull out a can of alcohol and start drinking while you're kicking back, I get that there's like a connection with Western countries with that, like in a hot tub and jacuzzi, but that's not how it is. It's not like that in Japan. Yeah, a lot of the behaviors need to be kind of addressed, I think. And I'm not sure how that is. And I'm not Japanese, right? But I've lived here a while, and I've done my best to adjust where I can. But I feel like there's some teaching there beyond how to buy a house in Japan. I think like how to respect living and how to respect the place while living in Japan is a huge missing piece of the puzzle that I'd like to fill in at some point, with the help of other people, with the help of locals, not just like, hey, I'm that guy and I know everything about Japan. More like, this is the one opinion of someone who's from here. And I mean like interviewing my neighbors and talking to them about it. And that opinion will differ from house to house. Jan D asks, so Jan D commented, you have this huge concrete wall between your property and the neighbors. What is the function? Is it part of a previous structure? The neighbor's house, their roof, the snow slides off and it hits their yard. It kind of just shoots out. And if that wall wasn't there, it would go in my yard. And we all have to take care of our own snow in this area. I don't have the capacity to take on board my neighbor's snow from his roof. So that wall is to block the snow from falling into my yard. And he doesn't need to put that there, but he did. So I'm grateful that he did that. That's more shoveling for me. It's a bigger kamakura, a bigger igloo for me. John White, what do you do for work? My main thing is, I do a lot of different things. I've adapted from, my background is construction management, and I've converted into, I do YouTube. I get paid for YouTube. I do consulting for anyone that wants to buy property in Japan at the high level. Where do we start? How do I buy a house in Japan? What do I need to look for as a professional in construction? I give people advice. Like, I do consulting services in construction. Reviewing properties for people who are interested, and just finding a location in general, and what are some of the hurdles that people might face, providing advice on akiya versus like a regular house. And then I just sell things on the side. I work with the government. They pay me money to help them promote their tourism in the local smaller areas. I do it for free as well. But yeah, it's all part of this, like, social media life is a big part of what I do. And then consulting on the side, selling my merch for Orija, my brand that I might expand into something else. So I'm at a very early stage of, like, I'm actually in a very good position. I can't believe how much opportunity I have and taking this step into this lifestyle. But really, it's endless opportunities from here for anybody who was to do something like this. I think I just try to keep a foundation of trying to provide genuine, real, and honest advice to people, and it just keeps getting better and better. So it's a lot. I don't have like one title of what I do. I promote Japan. I try to help with buying houses in Japan and renovating houses in Japan, and just like seeing how that expands from there. There's so much that could possibly happen from here. From like property management to like anything, building a ski resort and whatever I wanted to do, I feel like I can do it at this point. It's incredible. Patterson, California, what is up? Thanks for joining, Alfredo. The professor, JLR, was thinking I could drill some holes in the door and spray it with insulation. It's possible, but I think I'm just gonna get a new door because like even the gaps, the door it has quite big gaps where it meets, and that's gonna be a problem too. So I think it's just time to upgrade the door. I'm okay with saving up and spending some money on insulating the door, getting a brand new door. I'm thinking I can probably find one on Yahoo Auctions, a second-hand one, and then install it myself. So I could save like a lot of money getting second-hand on Yahoo Auctions. Udotsu family, my husband can't understand British or Australian people at all. How do you understand my accent? Is it clear? My accent's something in between. Natalie Schumacher from South Australia, what is up? How you doing? How are you guys joining in Australia? It's like 10 o'clock in the morning. Here in Japan, it must be like midday there. India, what is up? You seem to become part of the community. I feel part of the community here. I feel like really connected to this place. I lived in Kyoto before, in an apartment, and I lived in Mie before, in Ise City. It's famous for Ise Jingu. Kyoto is very much a city vibe. Mie in Ise is more like suburban, I'd say, and here is more countryside. And I do feel here that out of these experiences, I've lived in Nagano as well, in Ueda, and a couple of other spots, which is more like suburban, small city style. But I do feel like, it might be cliche, but living in the countryside in a more rural spot does make me, I do feel more connected to these people. And especially because there is so much depth to the snow. There's so much depth to living here with the seasons. We do need to talk to each other, and we do need to work things out amongst our community to how to deal with certain aspects. What does my girlfriend do? So my girlfriend's name is, by the way, Tomoko or Dylan. She has two names. And what does she do for work? She works for a lodge, the owner of a few lodges, and she does anything from like lodge work to interpretation. She's trilingual, and yeah, anything from applying to anything related to paperwork in Japan. So anything related to Japanese and anything related to tourism and lodge, plus other stuff, but a big part of it relates to her language skills. She's incredible to have. Anyone who speaks more than one language is just like pretty cool. For me, I respect that a lot. I've had to work so hard to acquire a second language and a third language, and still, like, I just feel like every day I need to work on it. But for those people who are really native level speakers of multiple languages, like, hats off to you guys. Do you have a Japanese driver's license? Yes, I do. It was very easy for me to convert. At the time I had 3 licenses, international licenses. I had an Australian license, I had an American license, and I had a British license, driver's license. And actually, the latest one I had was my American license, and that came from Washington State while I was living close to Seattle. And if you're coming from the US and you were to convert your license, only a few states are accepted in Japan for an easy transition conversion where you just do the paperwork and you don't need to do anything but an eye test. Washington and Hawaii are two of those states, and I think there's one more. The other ones, if you're coming from the US, you'd have to sit a driving exam and do a test. But for a Washington state, for Australia, and for a British driver's license, I wouldn't need to do any driving tests. So I do have a Japanese driver's license. And it was very easy to get. It's just time consuming and paperwork, as Japan always is. I see this comment about my name, Matt Gaijin, Matt Guy. Yeah, you know what's funny? Like, I did think about making my. People have said, like, you should have made your name Matt Gaijin. That should have been your handle. But I would want to shake that at some point. I wouldn't want that forever, Matt Gaijin. Anthony asks, how do you deal with the mosquitoes? Are they bad everywhere in Japan? Yeah, the mosquitoes are terrible here. And there was a few years back, I traveled with a friend of mine. We slept in hammocks around Japan. We had a budget of like 300, it was like 250 US dollars. It was less than 400 Australian dollars at the time. He was coming from Australia, so he had 400 bucks. And we were coming to Japan for 5 weeks. And we booked a flight from Tokyo and we were flying out of Osaka. And we had 5 weeks to basically survive on like this 400 bucks or 250 US dollars. So we brought those like little folding scooters and traveled, like we hitchhiked through Japan and we traveled with hammocks through Japan. We did a lot of stuff that I wouldn't do anymore. Just knowing like it's not culturally the norm, but it was a learning curve for me. And at that time, sleeping outside, like in parks, I slept in Asakusa in Tokyo outside. I slept in, what's the name of that park? Let me just check. Tokyo, begins with Y. Park, Y, yeah. Yoyogi. I slept in Yoyogi Park in a tent. And it was freezing that night, actually. This was during the peak of summer. Sorry, not a tent, in a hammock between some posts. And on that trip during the summer, my friend didn't have a mosquito net to surround his hammock, and he just got stung in the back every day. The amount of stings that he had, like from mosquitoes, was crazy. But I happen to be very resilient to mosquitoes. Mosquitoes never, they'll land on me, but they never bite me. Like, I'm never affected by mosquitoes, ever. But they are terrible here. I went to the Amazon for about 3 weeks in the Bolivia and Brazil side. And you could look back and see clouds of mosquitoes, like you'd be walking and the cloud of mosquitoes just following you along. And I didn't get one mosquito bite, not once in the 3 weeks I was in the Amazon. And I was traveling along the river there on a boat with a guy with a machete. That's a whole other story. And we just like caught piranha. Just like throw the line in, catch piranha, bring it up, and just you have like piranha soup every day. Hey Yokohama, what's up, Kenneth? Have you tried to build a kamakura? Not yet. It's on the list. I think I'm doing a kamakura this year. What's this? I'm just scrolling down to the comments. Give me a second here. I'm in China, lived in China. So Mint Green is commenting saying, lived in China for 18 years Interested to know whether they have coffee at Family Mart. They do have coffee at Family Mart. They've got like the dispenser machines, and they've got like the pre-made stuff. You've got to add like syrup to the Family Mart coffee. It's yeah, it's like really bitter, the Family Mart style. 7-Eleven is probably slightly better, but I stopped drinking it a while back now. I'm trying to like cut that habit. The milk, I don't trust the milk actually. It's just like that creamy milk. But it's doable. 7-Eleven's doable. Family Mart, you got to add like the syrup or the powder on top. The what is it? Some flavoring. Kenneth likes the sound of snow, born in Nagano Prefecture, nearby Myoko. Oh, very cool. Yeah, the sound of snow is like one of these things. I tried to put it on that last video because I walk around the town and I do hear it and I do recognize it and I do love the sound of snow. It is like that crunching. The powder snow is different too. It can be hard to capture, but I think I got it on that last video I made. Mint Green's thinking about buying an Akia. So Mint Green asks, is it easy to get a 2-year visa based on learning Japanese? Yeah, it's really easy. It's actually, if you apply to a language school, you'll most likely get, if you apply for a 2-year visa, a 2-year language school program, they'll give you a 2-year visa. And I highly recommend it. Like, check out a language school. They're very nice for not just the language, but you do get to live in Japan and just learn the more Japanese style. Not to say that you need to be Japanese or completely convert, but it just helps with that introduction to living in Japan and behavioral differences. I assume, so Kenneth says, assuming that snow shoveling provides opportunity to connect with the local community. I think in general, the snow in general is a way to connect with the local community because every day is a conversation. You walk outside and like, wow, the snow's terrible again today. And it's a starting point of a conversation in a society where weather is, as you would know, Kenneth, it seems like you were born here and you know this already, but weather is an easy way to start talking to people that you don't know in Japan. It's a nice like introduction to a conversation. And like, yeah, for more like context to that, it's not always normal to have like an ad hoc in the street conversation in Japan. In the countryside it can be though. These messages like scrolling. I'm just scrolling through the messages. Hold up. Australians are normally good to understand. I think I'm going to interpret this like Punkt has commented saying Australians are normally good to understand. I'm going to assume you're talking about like cultural stuff, or is it language? Let me know. But I think majority of people that come, like go to Japan, go anywhere, I think majority do try their best to be on their best behavior wherever they go. I think that's easily the majority. It's just unfortunate that sometimes others are not on their best behavior or they're not really trying to be part of it. I really tell people, if you're coming skiing in Japan, it's not just a ski resort. It's not Whistler. You're not just going here for skiing. You're going into a community that does more outside of the skiing in outside of the winter time. Skiing is the snow is just one part of it. I saw you wrote accent, Punkt. Yeah, I think Australians, let me think. I'm trying to think of my experience. Australians easy to understand. It depends where. So my girlfriend, right, she was raised in Japan, trilingual, but she was exposed to American accent, and she now works with Australians here in Miyoko, and they are the Bogan style. They're not Bogans themselves. They've got that accent that is really like drawn out. Like, let me think. Hey, what are you doing, Savo? You go over to the servo, get some petty at the servo. Like, not reining in. Like, you've got to expand on the words like petty, servo, arvo. If you've never been to Australia and been exposed to this stuff, you've got to adapt the way that you speak. Yeah, the slurry Aussie slang. Yeah. What are you doing? Yeah, you got over here. What are you doing? Yeah. So it's like you've got to be aware that you've got to like change that for the people that are listening to you. And yeah, I think most Australians are pretty good at it. I think it's just Nisiko and Hakuba might be a bit different. I'm just kidding. It's like everyone's like really does their best. I can tell you many stories about that. Hey, what's up, Shade Wheel? Howdy. Nice to have you here. Oregon is also a free pass driver's license. Yeah, Oregon's also good. Washington, Oregon, reliable systems apparently. It was actually not so straightforward getting a. It was straightforward. There's a whole story when I got my driver's license in Washington. It was hilarious. I'd have to think about that again. It's just funny. Some of the questions that I was asked on that test was so funny. Like, you're completely drunk. Should you drive a car? Yes, no, maybe. Something or other. Would heated roofing and snowmelt systems be appropriate in that region? So they do have, Fibonacci, I think it's Nachi. Would heated roofs and snowmelt systems be appropriate for that region, for snow country Japan? Have you seen melting systems in your area? They do have them. They're hydraulic systems, so it's using boiler systems. It's water and piping. So that is the most common type. I've talked to the builders next door about what is it like if I put down electric mats to melt the snow, and they say it's just not going to work. Electricity is not going to work. We can get we had 3 feet of snow overnight almost today, more than 2 feet of snow, and it just wouldn't melt it fast enough. And the electricity is expensive in Japan. Power in general around the world is more expensive. So yeah, hydraulic would make more sense, and they do have them. The best case is that the snow just slides off itself, and they have these splitters. So they got a roof on the top, and then a piece at the top called a splitter, a snow splitter, and that sits right at the top of the roof, and that splits. It starts the snow to slide down, and that's free. If you have that, it doesn't cost you any money. The snow just stays beside your house, and then the houses are built these days. The first floor is concrete, and you live from the second floor up. So this is the cheaper way that you don't have to pay for power. Have you ever been to Fukuoka, and are there any Akiya in Fukuoka? I read Fukuoka is regarded as a very modern, open-minded place. Can't seem to find information about Akiya. I've been to Fukuoka. Yeah, it's a great place. Is it modern? The city of Fukuoka is the tech state of Japan. It's the tech area of Japan. I'd say modern in Japan doesn't really exist to me. Open-minded. They're a younger generation down there. It's reported statistically. There are tons of Akiya everywhere. You'll find them in Fukuoka, probably not right in the city, but outside of the city you'll find Akiya. And I'd say don't buy Akiya. Avoid it. Just get a regular house. Am I watching the Four Nations hockey? I don't watch any sports, unfortunately. I don't really watch any sports. I used to watch a lot of sports, especially NBA and college ball, but I don't watch it these days. I just don't do it. It's probably shoveling snow. I stopped a few years back, unfortunately. I do, but I would love to get back into it. What camera do I use right now? I'm only using my, I just got the latest iPhone, and it was purely for the storage, 1 terabyte. But I just use iPhone for my camera. It's just good most of the time with the it's just good most of the time for stability. That's the main reason I use it. Why is my... I've just seen my hair again. What the hell? Why has no one commented on this? This is a quiff. I'm gonna flatten this. What a quiff here. Ah, funny. All right. Yeah, so my camera is just an iPhone. That's all I'm using for now. I'd love to upgrade it, but I think the editing takes me way too long. I need to connect with someone to help edit the videos. But otherwise and I edit everything on my phone, so everything's like pretty small. Otherwise I'd be getting a more serious camera. And because I'm still growing, I want to get, and because like I'm still growing, my content right now is seasonal. I want to get it out there as quick as I can. It's supporting feeling. Kiitos. Loyal Family Mart customer. Oh, that's cool. You're saying, so someone's saying that in Family Mart there's like a Starbucks style sub-brand per cafe. Almost as good as Starbucks. That's cool. Living the retirement life. Thank you for the comment, for the kind comment. You liked my typical winter day. Love the sound of crunching snow. Yeah, I think it's important to try to capture how simple life can be here. It is very easy to live in Japan, in countryside Japan, anywhere in Japan. It's pretty straightforward, apart from the paperwork. Hello from Trinidad and Tobago. What is up? That's another great lifestyle over there. Aussie slang. Got Canada. Giselle asking, I admire you leaving home to travel and live in other places. Do you miss family and living in Australia? Do you have siblings? I definitely miss family. I for sure miss family and friends, and it created a disconnect, but I mean, it created other opportunities for other things and meeting other people, learning other things. So maybe there was a time in my life where I did feel, I mean, there was excitement initially of doing something different. I also grew up between two countries and felt already disconnected in some ways. But yeah, it's let me experience things I would never get to experience in a deeper way. I definitely miss family, and I feel sometimes really bad that I can't be there when things don't go well, or even when they go well, and I can't be directly part of that. But I think it's just the choice I've made, at least for now, to make the most of it. I don't miss living in Australia. I miss things about Australia, and this is not a negative comment in any way, but especially the last time I visited Australia, and I grew up in Sydney, the Northern Beaches, and it's just changed so much, and not in a bad way, but I do feel less connected there now than ever. When I grew up between more or less Sydney and London, and I already was kind of torn about like where was my home, and my parents are British, So I never felt Australian. I never felt British. I never really felt something. So I've never been patriotic to anywhere. But when I go back to Australia now, if I go to visit, and I will be going there pretty soon actually, I love so many aspects about Australian lifestyle and the beaches and nature, how green the place is, and how well nature blends with the cities. I do get reverse culture shock when I leave Japan. When, for example, people will talk to me. Actually, so the US is the worst for this, by the way. But when people talk to you at random times, you go into a store and people say, hey, what are you looking for today? What can I help you with? It's actually, I don't expect that in Japan. You just get the irashaimase and you just kind of get on with whatever you're doing. But Australia is very friendly about it. And they'll say like, hey, what are you doing today? Like at the supermarket, you're scanning like, boop. And people will be like, hey, what's your plans today? The weather's pretty good. And my more natural response is like, I'm more private about that now. So I don't really want to share what I'm doing. So I can, and it takes me a bit to adjust to like that friendly conversation. And in America, people are just so open to share like what's going on in their lives that it's like, it's very friendly and it's very supportive and positive, but there's a transition period for me to get into that communication style. In some places, they have hot water from hot springs to melt snow in the street. Yep, that's true. And some houses have hot spring water, and we have hot spring water down here to melt some snow as well. Yeah, it looks like the Orija logo. Yeah, there's a comment here. Your hair looks like the Orija logo. Yeah, you're not wrong. It's just like, boom. Subliminal advertising. Hello from Sydney, Australia. Recently started watching YouTube. Hey, what's up? Leonardo, Salvador. Thank you very much for joining. What's up, Rohit? How you doing? Okay, what's going on here? Shade Wheel 72 asking me about how much it would cost for a 2-year language. If I had to estimate what it would cost to study Japanese for 2 years, live in Japan for 2 years, pay for the program, how much would that cost in USD? So it's set, so the course itself for a 2-year program to learn Japanese would cost roughly less than 10,000 US dollars for tuition, less than 10,000. And it's recommended by the schools that you have roughly 7,000 US dollars per year to support yourself. So you could just round it up to 10,000. So I'd say for 2 years, if you want for tuition and for living costs for 2 years, it's recommended to be around 30,000 US dollars. It's actually, it can be less. That's what it's recommended to be. It's about $25,000 total. Ballpark, and I'm just ballparking it. Mooncake is asking, planning a holiday, get a property in Japan, where's the safest place in Japan with regard to earthquake, volcano, and away from nuclear power plants? Probably Okinawa and Hokkaido is 2 safe spots. So the 2 further places away. Also Chiba in Tokyo has, next to Tokyo is Chiba to the east. And that's got a pretty good reputation for all of those things, earthquakes and things. Even Kyoto has a pretty good reputation, and Osaka for less earthquake activities. There's actually there's actually, all of these maps are available. If you just search Japan earthquake map, Japan, what's it called? Natural disaster map, you'll find them. There's information for this. It is bed hair. That's what my hair is. Okay, I'm gonna check the last couple of comments and I'm gonna dip because it's now 11:15 and I have no choice but to go snowboarding now. All right. I don't know if the latest ones are loading. Let's go to live chat. Oh, there's so many on here I've missed. Sorry if I've missed your comment. I really apologize. I'm trying to keep up with this. And the last one I'm not seeing that well. Let's close this thing. Yeah, the hair was not a choice. It was just I took the hat off and it was here. It's just in a state. Look at that. Great. Australia is so gorgeous and not a lot of population compared to the land size. Australia is a great place to live. I think. So a few years ago, I think it was 2020, I tried to live in Australia again in 2020 for 3 months, and I was living on the beach. It was incredible. I just moved back from the US, and there's so much drama in the US, but it's such fun drama. I mean, it's like sitting on the wall and like just watching it with popcorn, it's so interesting. But when I moved back to Australia, I was so bored because it was so easy. Life was too easy. There was less drama. So it sounds ridiculous. It's like a backhander, let's say, it's like a backhander comment to say actually how good it is to live in Australia because there is less drama and it does feel like I went into like early retirement living there again. And I had to leave because I needed drama. I actually moved back to the US. But nothing against Australia. Like it's a wonderful place to live. And I'm really grateful that I grew up there in a space where it was a safe spot. I could explore. It's promoted that you go out there and you go to the beach and you lift up the rocks and you look for things and you pick up the shells and you find dangerous stuff and climb trees. Being outside is a great thing in Australia. Chiba. Hey from Northern Beaches, Daniel from Northern Beaches, what's up? Yeah, I'm out. I'm going snowboarding. I've had so much snowboarding time. Don't worry, I've had a lot of snowboarding time this season. And actually, I don't get out early. When I go snowboarding, I never am there in the morning. I get there like 10:30, 11 o'clock, so I'm never in a rush. Actually, I prefer getting the last runs on the day because people dip here. About 11:30, there's no one left in the resorts. It's a Tuesday. 11:30, 12 o'clock, there's no one else there. It's just me and the resort. All right, I'm gonna get going, but thank you so much. I think I've answered as many comments as I can. I really appreciate you guys joining. I wasn't expecting to have many people join here at this time, but I'm grateful you guys got on here. Wherever you are in the world, my bit of an Irish accent came out there, but wherever you are, thanks a lot. Check out my latest video. I just put it out there and tried to capture like one of the peak weeks. It was like, today's the 18th. It's about 10 days back when we had some pretty crazy snow. So check it out if you want to see that. I will be back here at some point. Thanks a lot. Enjoy your day wherever you are or your night. Take care.